tree, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. It all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in our union. Now the lessons of the past were all learned with workers' blood and strike songs.
Hello, welcome to the April 4th Coalition Show. This is the March 25th, 2024 show. We're missing Elizabeth Mann, so I'm going to have to struggle through doing her job, but hopefully she's doing okay, her and her family. We're lucky to have Rachel Branch here with us, Susan Rose, and Michael Wilbur. And we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of the closing of North Adams Regional Hospital. It was 10 years ago today that the announcement was made that we had 3 days before the hospital would close. But before we get into that, I should talk about the April 4th Coalition. We're for workers' rights and collective bargaining rights, and we're against tax breaks for the rich and corporations who ship our jobs overseas. We also support all the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but we put our special emphasis on Article 23. Article 1, everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and protection against unemployment. Number 2, everyone, without any discrimination, has the right to equal pay for equal work.
Number 3, everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, ensuring for herself and himself and his or her family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection.
Number 4, Michael.
Number 4, everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for his or her interests.
Thank you, Mike. And as we're talking about trade unions, I had planned to read a letter to the editor why I support the striking mass MoCA workers by Stuart Burns, but newsflash, I went down to walk with the picketers today and there were no picketers. I went to the UNO Center where the union headquarters was, and they said that they achieved a settlement with the mass MoCA management, and a vote will be taken tomorrow whether to accept what they are encouraging their union membership to accept. They feel that they have reached a deal. So they're going to get a minimum wage there of $18 an hour and 3.5% increase in the first year and in the second year. So, and they have other items so watch the paper. So we're in solidarity with those guys and we're very happy for them. So let's move back to this. I guess we're going to get on a little time machine. You know, the fact, I know that the actual date is the 28th, and you have some things planned, Rachel, on the 28th, and that'll be available on the community television.
1301, as creator and producer of Solutions Rising, I am presenting again, which we've done every year, 4 shows that I taped in 2021. The first one with our wonderful Mike Wilbur, one with Dr. Paul Donovan, who was at the hospital for 27 years and wrote a trilogy about the history of the North Adams Hospital. I did one with Professor Maynard Cedar, and then I did one with Maynard Cedar and Paul Donovan together. And then also, and these will come in order, they will be shown at 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, March 28th, the actual date that the hospital closed. And also, the last part of that will be your son, Peter Dosati's documentary on the closing of the hospital. So it will start right after Democracy Now! On Thursday at 1 o'clock and go on. My usual show time is 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. It might just go right through that. So we hope everybody who would, and of course I want this on again because I want people to remember and not lose sight of what happened to our city, the ramifications, and the jobs that were lost, and the lack of the illegal 3-day only notice telling people.
Yeah.
But it really devastated
So why
our
don't we
community.
take a trip back and look at some of the television news reports. We have a couple of them that we would like to show. Let's see the first one, and then we'll have some comments on it.
Community coming together tonight, a day after learning its only hospital will be closing its doors at the end of this week.
Hundreds of employees there already taking their things home, but they're not letting it close without a fight.
No, they're not. Brendan Lewis was in North Adams earlier today as the community called for help, and he has tonight's top story.
Well, Greg and Dory, the evening started at the American Legion Post in downtown North Adams and then ended here with a vigil in the lobby of the North Adams Regional Lobby. Behind me here, the protesters have gone home now, but say they are ready for a fight to keep this hospital open.
What are we going to do with these people that we have? It's not right. It's not right at all.
Hundreds packed the American Legion to learn the latest in a fight to save North Adams Regional Hospital after it announced Monday the doors would be closed for good by the end of the week.
If it wasn't for many of you people here, I wouldn't be here today. You gave me excellent care, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
Many handed out flyers to online petitions asking the state Senate, Governor Deval Patrick, and even the White House to step in.
My optimism is that the state will find a way to help us, okay? Whether it can be done by Friday is another thing. I mean, we know how government is and the steps and the processes that have to happen. But I do know the governor is committed to helping us. What that really means, I don't know yet.
Shortly after the forum, several dozen people came to the hospital to hold an impromptu vigil. Among them was Caroline Gerard, a nurse here for 34 years.
I love it here, and I wouldn't have gone anywhere else. I'm a staff nurse, and I love my job. I wanted to retire here, and I thought I would.
Hospital security wouldn't allow our cameras inside, but the group stayed just long enough to hold a prayer and share a few words of encouragement.
We're family. Every time they say the word family, it's true, because we are a big family.
And the protesters say they will be back here at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning with a rally and another vigil. And then a third rally is planned for Friday at 9 a.m. before the doors close. At least they're scheduled to at 10 a.m. In North Adams, Brandon Lewis, CBS.
Any reaction there?
500 people lost their jobs, not a few. Devastated the businesses downtown. 3 days. Nobody ever explained
It's
that.
illegal. Illegal.
Absolutely illegal. And of course, we didn't get the support from the governor.
No,
We didn't get it from the
that
mayor.
stuck-
We didn't get it from a lot of people.
That stuck in my throat right there. The governor was going to do something. Well, the governor that day received an open letter from a professor at Northeastern University. I can't remember his name right now, but he told the governor what he had to do.
Yeah.
He had to declare a medical emergency in North Adams and use the distressed hospital fund to keep the hospital open and then find new management to run it. You never let those doors shut. You never should have let those doors shut, but they did.
129 years, you don't invest outside the community. And for me to see a Mass MoCA get 25 million and we lose our hospital and they're silent, MCLA was silent, not all the faculty though. Williams College was silent. It was just like someone took a sledgehammer.
Well, we had an idea of what was going to happen because, and probably the reason why they closed it with 3 days' notice is when they closed the Greylock Pavilion, they had an open meeting for public hearing at the American Legion with the closing, and hundreds of people showed up to that and expressed their displeasure with them closing the Greylock Pavilion.
That was a mental health?
Yeah.
Greylock
The Greylock Pavilion Club.
mental health.
And that was,
Unit.
I think I did a little talk on that
you did.
at the meeting. It was very sad because there's a lot of people in this community that really needed it.
I can remember one person who lived on my mail route who was used that often, just shrieked when they said it. He shrieked out loud when he heard them say they were closing it. But they should have taken further steps. Just like you don't hear the name Wells Fargo Bank mentioned, but they were the people that foreclosed on the hospital, and they received money from the federal government in 2008 2007 to buy out Wachovia, billions of dollars. They got money during the bank bailout. And then they held us accountable for what, $25 million or something, or whatever it was. They closed a community hospital down for that. But anyways, let's watch the next video because they closed down the emergency room the next day too. Let's see what they have to say about that.
Regional Hospital today closed the doors to its emergency room. 22 News reporter Juliana Mazza was in North Adams where concerned residents made their feelings known.
The emergency room at North Adams Regional Hospital is no longer open.
Although North Adams Regional Hospital closed its doors Friday, Saturday was the first day the emergency room shut down. Residents who protested the closing say it took them by surprise.
I thought yesterday we had an agreement where the emergency room was going to be kept open. And then at the end, after people left, we found out now they turned around and said it's going to be closed.
Union spokesman Jeff Hall told 22 News the hospital administration claimed they didn't have enough staff or equipment to keep the ER open. North Adams residents say they're not buying it.
Why would they lie and take people's lives in danger? They know they have all the equipment they need.
22 News is working for you to learn how the sudden emergency room closure would impact residents.
It feels like a bad dream. You know, you don't really think something like this, of this magnitude, could happen. The turnaround times will be longer, meaning we need to put more ambulances on the road, and that's what we've done.
North Adams Ambulance Service says before the hospital closed, it could take just minutes to transport a person to the hospital. But now, transporting patients here to Berkshire Medical Center in Pittsfield, they told 22 News in some cases that could take well over an hour.
A major emergency comes up. Unfortunately, the person might not make it.
And hundreds of former employees are now in the unemployment line.
When I found out about this, I cried because I've got friends that work up there. I've got a relative that worked up there. And I mean, some of those nurses have been up there, what, 30, 40 years? And it's a tragedy.
About 550 employees worked at the hospital. Staff and patients were only given 3 days' notice to the closing. Reporting in North Adams, Juliana Mazza, 22 News.
Who are that handsome guy that was on there?
Yeah. Our very own Mike Wilbur, Mr. Wilbur, standing out there speaking up.
I got kicked off site.
Yes, he got kicked off. You got kicked off
Oh,
site.
yeah, for Hopkins. I was right down there with my sign. I was on the hospital side.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was out there, and all of a sudden, Paul Hop came out. Oh, you can't be here. I said, what? He said, you're on our property. I said, no. I said, you can know it. He said, I want you off my property. I said, we don't own it. I said, oh, that. So you got, you know, 2 ways to get across. So I'll go on that side. I said, you don't own that part. Mm-hmm. I did. He enjoyed me.
You stood up, and you know, you
like a lot of us.
A lot of people did, and
You
we
told
continue
me.
to. We
Yeah.
continue. At that time, though, I wasn't able to. I had just sustained a head injury.
A healthcare need,
I had
emergency.
I had post-concussion syndrome. I remember my son contacted me and said that the hospital was closing. I couldn't believe it. So I tried to contact local activists, and I called Maynard Cedar in Philadelphia. I tried to get people to, I set up us having a show, April 4th Coalition show, but you know, I talked to people and they wouldn't recognize my voice because my voice had been changed because of the head injury. They couldn't even understand me. But it was a very difficult time for me.
And it was 37,000 plus Northern Berkshire residents that lost the services of that hospital. That has to be stated also, I think. Rich.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah. It was a travesty. I called it a travesty, and that's what it was.
Right, and we've every year we've commemorated this. Now, we had some other videos that we could possibly show, but I thought maybe, you know, we try to talk about what the implications were individually for when that hospital closed. Like Susan, what was the impact for you?
Well, of course, the Greylock Pavilion, some of my children, you know, used it a lot. And also, as far as the hospital closing, I did a little bit of research and found out that a lot of the small hospitals, you know, almost across the nation were closing. We weren't the only ones, but why us anyways? But I'm saying it was a tragedy. But, excuse me for my voice.
There was one video that we have that is, it says, why did North Adams Regional Hospital close? Maybe, can we show that one, Dave? Maybe
Well,
that,
just before you show that, I
Yeah.
think for a hospital to be sustained by the community for 129 years, if I didn't know until that hospital closed that they were different financial arms to health services, and the community always stood up and raised whatever money, and they had a few financial crises. 1955 was one of them. And everybody would get together, the families, the businesses, they would hold dinners and dances and all kinds of things, and they always kept that hospital. In fact, there should be regulations to not allow hospital boards to invest outside of community. And I think a big part across the country is the Medicaid, Medicare reimbursement. Now, that tells you that elected officials were not doing their job. Why is that a problem? So we all believe in universal health care. Why should people who have financial difficulty not have access to health care?
hospitals are too big to fail. Let's take a look
Touche.
at, let's look at that, why North Adams Regional Hospital closed.
And questions that many people in Berkshire County are asking today include, how did the hospital get into this financial crisis, and can anything be done to get out of it? 22 News reporter Matt Karen is live for us outside North Adams Regional Hospital with some possible answers.
North Adams Regional Hospital filed for bankruptcy in 2011, and their finances were audited by the state attorney general's office. But the state may have actually contributed to the root of their financial issues. SEUI spokesperson Jeff Hall told 22 News that 64% of the hospital's patients were on Medicare, and that the state only reimburses the hospital about 66 cents for every dollar of care provided, leaving the hospital with a gap that can only be filled through donations.
That makes North Adams very dependent on Medicaid funding from the state. Because the state is underpaid on those Medicaid rates for a long time, that's a key part in what precipitated the current crisis.
Hall said that the Medicare gap could be filled if the hospital was designated as a critical care facility, but that would require changing a state rule. Any hospital with that designation is required to be at least 25 miles from the next nearest acute care facility. North Adams Regional Hospital is 23 miles away. Reporting live just outside of North Adams Regional Hospital, Matt Karen, 22 News.
So there.
And that's, for me, that's just disgraceful, because it's not really telling the underlying story of the investment outside of the community and the lack of legislative intent to protect hospitals. And ours is a good example. With people who are low income on Medicare, we have quite a gray elderly community, and those on Medicaid. There should never be a way to keep people from getting health care that they need, particularly emergency care. So you're getting part of the story there,
Yeah.
I think.
We did get a satellite emergency room, eventually at least. I was so grateful for just that. So I remember being on the committee, and I remember everybody here that was.
You're still here.
Organized, yes, and how we all organized in it. And I remember the train of cars going up to BMC, yeah, as to show how long it took. I remember those days.
Yeah, we did that on the first anniversary, I think, of the closing. But, we needed that critical care access.
Yeah.
And right now, we're being presented with the fact that, hopefully, maybe even by the end of this week, we are going to have a step towards getting the hospital that we once had. There's going to be inpatient beds. And with the inpatient beds, that gives us a real emergency room. They can take down those 24-hour medical access. They're going to put up real hospital signs soon.
Oh, that's
But and I was there at the opening, and I was talking to one of the former members of the board, and he said, did you ever think this was going to happen? And I said, absolutely. And he looked at me like I had two heads. But, you know, we had a belief that it was going to open. We knew it was there for 129 years, and we needed a hospital. It just was a matter of time of when it was going to be open. And it looks like maybe this week or next week, we're going to have a new hospital. And it reminded me of a song by Stan Rogers. And it's a very important, uplifting song. And I wanted to share that with you because I hope we're on an uplifting move, that we're moving towards regaining all of those services that we once had at North Adams Regional Hospital. So let's hear that Stan Rogers song, and if we have some time extra, we'll comment on it.
I was on a ship that were carrying coal from Norfolk, Virginia to a place near Fall River, Massachusetts. And we got caught in a very bad storm. It was an old ship. And we didn't have very much warning. About 2 o'clock in the morning, we saw the ship was starting to get in trouble and go down by the head. And we called the Coast Guard, and they were on the way out as quick as they could. And the ship cracked up and rolled over at 4:15 a.m. The water was very cold. It was 39 degrees. I had heard enough stories about a vortex and a whirlpool sucking people down when the ship sunk, so I started trying to swim away as fast as I could. So it was probably the best part of an hour that I'd been doing this that I ran across a swamped lifeboat, and I managed to get into it. As the night wore on and the seas kept smashing down on top of me, and I finally got the feeling I just couldn't make it anymore. And I was just about ready to give up when all of a sudden the words came into my mind, rise again, no matter what you've lost, be it a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter, rise again. And I just kept saying that over, and then the water cleared away, and I'd shout it out and sing it out. And another sea would come down on top of me. And I firmly believe that if it wasn't for that happening to me, I just was in a position where I couldn't have come through. And that song made the difference in me living through that night. There isn't any question in my mind whatsoever about it.
She went down last October in a pouring driving rain. The skipper, he'd been drinking and the mate, he felt no pain. Too close to 3 Mile Rock and she was dealt her mortal blow. And the Mary Ellen Carter settled low. There was just us 5 aboard her when she finally was awash. We'd worked like hell to save her, all heedless of the cost. And the groan she gave as she went down, it caused us to proclaim that the Mary Ellen Carter would rise again. Well, the owners wrote her off, not a nickel would they spend. She gave 20 years of service, boys, that meant her sorry end. But insurance paid the loss to us, so let her rest below. Then they laughed at us and said we had to go. We talked to her all winter, some days around the clock, for she's worth $250,000 afloat and at the dock. And with every jar that hit the bar, we swore we would remain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Here we go. Rise again, rise again. That her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. All spring now we've been with her on a barge lent by a friend. 3 dives a day in a hard hat suit and twice I've had the bends. Thank God it's only 60 feet and the currents here are slow, for I'd never have the strength to go below. We've patched her ends, stopped her bends, dog patch and put all down. Put cables to her fore and aft and girded her around. Tomorrow noon we'll hit the air and then take up the strain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Come on now! Rise again, rise again. Let her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. to crumble into scale. She'd saved our lives so many times, living through the gales, and the laughing drunken rats who left her to a sorry grave, they won't be laughing in another day. And you to whom adversity has dealt the final blow, with smiling bastards lying to you everywhere you go, turn to and put out all your strength of arm and heart and brain, and let the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again. Though your heart it be broken and life about to end, no matter what you've lost, be in a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter. Rise again, rise again, rise again. Though your heart it be broken and life about to end, no matter what you've lost, be in a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter. Rise again. Jim Morrison. Garnet Rogers.
Stan Rogers, thank you. Hi, great.
Well,
Very nice.
yeah, Stan Rogers. He died in 1983. He was in a plane that caught fire, and it made an emergency landing, and it was smoke filled. And I heard one person report that he kept going in, pulling people out, until one time he didn't come out.
Wow.
But he was a Canadian-born singer.
Beautiful, beautiful song.
It is.
It's interesting because 1 Billion Rising is Rise 2024. We keep fighting.
That's
to
it.
Stop rape. Rape is a weapon of war. I'm cautiously optimistic, and for me personally, I've been disabled since I was hit on September 20th, 2001, after 9/11. The medical care that I need is acupuncture, massage therapy, craniosacral therapy, chiropractic treatment, and I think by now I've spent over $70,000 out of pocket since 2001, and I will need medical care for the rest of my life. So this is not just for me an indictment here in North Adams, it's an indictment of a healthcare system we do not have.
Right, and
so
there's
we ought to have a show on that.
Right, but we want Medicare. We want health care for all.
Yes.
There's a movement in Massachusetts. We're going to maybe pass around a petition to get it on the ballot as a non-binding question. Do you want universal health care in Massachusetts? Everyone in, no one out. We're going to do that, and we're going to, it would probably support our hospital and other hospitals that are in distress if everyone's covered the same way, no matter what your income. So
Let's make it a binding resolution.
Yes.
But here it's time for power to the people.
Power to the people.
And thank you.
Let's hope that North Adams Regional Hospital rises again.
Thank you.
I think so.
There's power in the factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in our union. Now the lessons of the past were all learned with workers' blood. The strikes of the bosses we must fight for. From the cities and the farmlands to trenches full of mud, war's always been the bosses' wife.